You are Keith Rowland. You are currently Director of the Medical Marketing Centre, an institution which provides marketing training and education, specialising in marketing skills provision for the pharmaceutical, healthcare and medical devices sector.
Yes, that is correct.
You are also a tutor at the Cambridge Marketing College, where you deliver courses in strategic marketing certified by the Chartered Institute of Marketing. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
You are also a highly experienced marketing practitioner. For over 30 years you were Sales and Marketing Manager of Cook Medical, a major supplier of medical devices, serving clinicians, if I can pronounce them all correctly, in gastroenterology, cardiology, radiology, embryology, urology, anaesthetics and general surgery, to name but a few of the healthcare specialisations your organisation served. Is that so?
Yes, I was.
You hold diplomas from the Chartered Institute of Marketing. You are a chartered marketer and fellow of the same body, and also a court assistant of the Worshipful Company of Marketers, and serve as chairman and member of other committees of that livery company.
Yes, that is correct.
For those of us ignorant of City of London livery companies in general, and of the Worshipful Company of Marketers in particular, would you confirm that the mission of the Marketers Company is to, I quote, promote marketing as a force for economic and public benefit, encouraging marketing education and marketing in practice?
Yes, that is so.
And would you describe yourself as an active participant in the pursuit of that mission, to promote marketing as a force for economic and public benefit, encouraging marketing education and marketing in practice?
Yes, I would.
In addition to your contribution to the livery company and to the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which you have also served over many years, you are, which brings a happy smile to my face, and no doubt any other serious beer drinkers here, on the marketing committee of the Campaign for Real Ale.
Yes, I am.
We must talk about that later. You hold an honours degree in biochemistry from the University of Leeds. You are an honorary fellow of the Association of Surgeons of Great Britain and Ireland, and a freeman of the City of London. Is that so?
Yes, it is.
Based on your career and the testimony of your many admirers to be found on LinkedIn and other websites, I would describe you as a highly educated, widely experienced, respected and successful expert in the practice and, more recently, the teaching of marketing. Would you share that description?
Thank you for the compliments, however undeserved.
The jury will, of course, reach their own conclusion, but I think we'll have no doubts as to your qualification as a witness in this important trial. Marketing, Mr. Rowland, is accused of failures of function and failures of what we might call education, the provision of skills. I will be asking you a number of questions, primarily as an experienced marketer, but also as an educator. You are undoubtedly qualified on both counts. Let us take a look at charge number 1, a failure of function. Marketing has failed to demonstrate to business how it creates value for customers and shareholders of the business. It is, of course, impossible for one abstract, marketing, to convince another abstract, business, of anything. Abstracts cannot conduct conversations. Abstracts cannot talk to abstracts. Abstracts cannot convince abstracts. People, however, can talk to people, and people can convince people, and people can demonstrate effectiveness to people. So, let us turn this charge round a moment and agree who are the people of whom we are talking here, who personifies marketing, who talks for business. Marketing, we can safely say, is personified in marketers, but who is business? Whom do marketers have to convince of the value they bring to the business party? Who, from your perspective of manager and academic, matters in business, on the resolutely capitalist world playing field on which business plays, on which we are all required, however reluctantly, to play? Who would you say represents business? Who calls the shots?
I would say that the ultimate decision maker on all matters of importance in the business world is the business owner, the investor, the shareholder, those who have put up money so the business may exist.
And would you tell the jury who it is that normally represents ownership of the business in the making of key decisions that affect the business?
That would be the board of directors for bigger and medium-sized businesses, though for small businesses it could be the owner. Not every business is big enough to need a board of directors, though most do for statutory purposes.
So when we are talking of a real world, not a theoretical or philosophical world of abstracts, would it be reasonable to modify the charge and restate it as follows? Marketers have failed to demonstrate to the board how marketing creates value for customers and the shareholders of the business for which they are responsible as directors.
It would.
So it is to boards of directors that marketing must demonstrate its value-creating skills. Now then, let's turn to marketing's failure to create value for customers and the shareholders. For customers and the shareholders. Marketing may well have demonstrated that it has created value for customers. We shall explore that later. But it isn't customers that boards represent. Boards represent primarily the interests of shareholders. So, does it not follow that if marketers don't convince the board that they create value for shareholders, marketing will be shut out?
Yes, it does.
So it would seem practical to concentrate above all on shareholders.
Yes, it would seem practical.
Let's probe this seeming disconnect between marketing and shareholders' interests. Later we will hear from our second witness, who will testify that very few marketing managers or so-called marketing directors or marketing officers sit on the main board of the companies they serve. Would that observation coincide with what you have observed in the companies you know?
It would indeed. It is extremely rare for a marketer to sit on the main board of a company.
It has also been said by insiders and experts that very few chief executive officers come from a marketing background. Would that also be your experience?
It would.
So, based on your observation, marketers seldom are admitted to the main board and few CEOs are ex-marketers.
That is the case.
And is it your expert opinion that this dismal record of marketing's presence where it counts on the board clearly supports the contention that marketing has failed to demonstrate its value to business?
It is.
Could you explain to the jury your reasons? How does the fact that few marketers sit on the main board support the charge that they have failed to convince business?
The board represents ownership in the effective conduct of the business. Effective, therefore, means effective for the shareholder. If marketers had convinced board members of their value to the business, they would be sitting on the board where the key decisions are made. So if marketers are not on the board, it indicates pretty clearly that marketers have not demonstrated their worth. From my observation, it is the case that marketers do not sit on main boards anywhere and in any sector, certainly healthcare and others with whom I've had dealings.
It is very clear from your testimony that your personal observations as a marketing practitioner lead you to conclude that marketing has failed to convince business that it creates value for shareholders. But it's not only the practitioner who sees this clearly. We introduce as evidence a seminal marketing text, Value-Based Marketing, written by the late Peter Doyle, who was in his day Professor of Marketing and Strategic Management at the Warwick Business School, previously having held senior positions at INSEAD, London Business School and Stanford University. The edition I present is from 2012, but the articles on which it is based go back to the year 2000. Would you read the passage on the screen, which is taken from his introduction to this much lauded book?
It is argued that the purpose of marketing is to contribute to maximising shareholder value, and that marketing strategies must be evaluated in terms of how much value they create for investors.
But Professor Doyle observed later that things are not going well for marketing or marketing executives. Would you read the second passage?
Marketing professionals, marketing departments and marketing education are not highly regarded. Few chief executives are from a marketing background. Most companies do not have a marketing director on the board, and marketing qualifications are often not treated seriously. One leading consulting firm has called marketing departments a millstone around an organisation's neck.
Professor Doyle was not alone in observing the failures of marketing to convince. I introduce in evidence a book by Malcolm MacDonald. You're familiar with Professor Malcolm, Emeritus Professor of Marketing at Cranfield, and one of the leading marketing academics in our country, indeed in the world.
Well, Professor Malcolm is our leading expert on marketing planning and well known to every serious student of marketing.
In this book, Value Marketing Metrics, Professor MacDonald makes some pretty scathing comments about the failures of marketing to convince business. Would you read a passage from his introduction?
Regrettably, the marketing community seems bent upon travelling down a path of collective self-destruction. For the past 20 years, we have successfully promoted an overly critical and defeatist view of our profession, convincing ourselves and others that marketers are often wasteful, self-indulgent, innumerate or detached, and therefore deservedly lacking in influence. We accuse ourselves of not speaking the language of the board as the reason for our limited and decreasing presence at the top table.
Our limited and decreasing presence at the top table. Pretty clear and pretty damning. Very well, the jury will note that we have now heard from our expert witness how marketing fails to convince the board, and we have now heard from the pages of leading academics how marketing fails to convince the board. May I now ask you to comment from a different perspective, that of marketing teacher and tutor, in particular as tutor in the central topic of strategic marketing. Why might that be? Why has marketing failed to convince the board? Might it be because marketing is not convinced itself? Might it be because there is so much disagreement as to what marketing is for, what is the nature and purpose of marketing itself, that it has not convinced the boardroom? Indeed, can marketing ever expect to convince until it makes up its mind? Makes up its mind, for example, that it is shareholders who must benefit from the deployment of the marketing toolkit.
I would suggest that there is no such agreement, no consensus on the purpose of marketing. Indeed, there is no general agreement on a definition of marketing, its nature and purpose, and therefore, by definition, on what makes it effective.
Let's test that against the facts. The facts will show that the failure to define marketing and what makes it effective goes back a long way. We introduce into evidence an article written in 1985 for the Journal of Marketing Management by a senior marketer at the J. Walter Thompson Advertising Agency, Stephen King, entitled "Has Marketing Failed, or Was It Never Really Tried?" In this article, Mr. King argues from his experience that marketing could not become effective until, I quote, "theorists are able to define more clearly what marketing actually is." In a further article from 2001, also presented in evidence, Professor Caroline Tynan of Nottingham University stated that marketers, and I quote again, continue to debate and lack consensus over the nature and role of marketing, the marketing concept and the marketing orientation. Are you familiar with the contribution to marketing theory of another of our leading academics, Professor Michael Baker, Emeritus Professor of Marketing at Strathclyde University?
Yes, I am. Professor Baker is one of our most respected marketing academics.
In an article written 16 years ago, Marketing Philosophy or Function, Professor Baker recalls how in 1993, Henley Management College researchers studied 100 separate definitions of marketing. I quote from the conclusions: "Latitude has allowed ambiguity to creep into marketing's definition and cause confusion. Definitional clarity is essential in future." Professor Baker puts his finger unerringly on the chaos of marketing definition, does he not?
He most certainly does.
Are you familiar with the following marketing topics, taken at random from marketing topics and modules taught in colleges and universities? Marketing principles, marketing essentials, marketing management, marketing communications, marketing history, marketing theory, value marketing, strategic brand management, relationship management?
Familiar with most, at least.
And are you familiar with writers of leading marketing texts, in addition to MacDonald, Doyle and Baker, already mentioned, such as Kotler, Keller, Gronroos, Aker, Chernatoni, Phil, Egan, Fahey and Jobber, Bartels?
Certainly most of them.
And would you be surprised to know that each of these writers on each of these topics, explicitly or implicitly, presents a somewhat different definition of marketing?
I'd be surprised if they didn't. Everyone has their own take on defining marketing.
Would you agree that today there are extant almost as many definitions of marketing as there are writers, and as many objectives as there are marketers, that words and phrases as varying as profit, sales, value, market share, loyalty, awareness, relationships, communication, activity, return to shareholders, exchange, satisfying needs, customer, consumer, demand fulfillment, process, function, pop-up, and probably more?
Yes, there are very many definitions flying about, and all those words appear.
Would you believe that there are separate definitions of marketing in the Oxford English Dictionary, Webster, the CIM, the Chartered Institute of Marketing website, the AMA, the American Marketing Association website, Wikipedia, and the Harvard Review, in which Regis McKenna, not entirely helpfully, wrote that marketing is everything, and that Heidi Cohen, on her most comprehensive website, lists 72 different marketing definitions?
Yes, I certainly would believe it. Marketing definition is chaos.
What are the consequences of this, may I call it, definitional discord or definitional chaos, definitional anarchy? What's the effect on practice of what is, after all, only theory?
How can marketing seek credibility in the boardroom? How can marketing claim to create value for shareholders when we marketers cannot agree ourselves what marketing's objectives are, whether shareholder value creation is indeed the objective or an objective even? We can't. How can marketing convince the board that marketing is the prime motor of business, the driver of income, profitability and shareholder value, when we don't believe it ourselves? We can't. How can we convince business owners to put marketing in the driving seat when we cannot agree where the marketing car is going, cannot agree its nature and purpose, what marketing is and what it is for, what it does and what it can do for business? Is marketing to deliver sales, generate income, build market share, make profits? Is it about customer management, brand management, supply chain management, internal, external, same for B2B and B2C or different? Is it all about digital? Just what does make marketing effective?
So you would say we cannot expect to convince anyone while marketing hasn't decided for itself what it's all about.
Marketing cannot by definition convince business that it is effective when it cannot agree what effective means. It certainly cannot convince business that effective means creating shareholder value if it isn't convinced itself.
It will fall mostly to our second witness to present testimony in proof of the second charge, but I am sure you will have a point of view from your experience and your perspective. Let me read to you this second charge. Marketing has failed to provide practitioners and those aspiring to practice the skills they need to create value for customers and shareholders of the business. Would you care to comment on this charge from your practical and academic perspective?
Yes, I certainly would. It is difficult. No, it's impossible for marketing to have provided the necessary skills for the same reason it has failed to convince the board. Marketing can't decide what marketing is for, so it cannot know what the necessary skills are for, and therefore it cannot know what they are. By definition, it is impossible for marketing systematically to provide the necessary skills. Not surprisingly, it has failed to do so.
Has marketing failed totally in the field of skills provision?
No, that would be a huge exaggeration. Marketing has done wonders with providing technical skills, especially in the new fields of digital.
How about the so-called softer skills, those of the financial literacy, advocacy, consensus building, communication, numeracy, team building, strategic planning, commercial understanding, shareholder relationships? How does marketing score in providing those skills, so prized in the boardroom?
I've seen almost nothing of that soft skills set in classrooms, texts, or places I've worked.
That concludes the testimony of the first witness for the prosecution, and I call our second witness Andrew Benz.